Welcome to this explainer. Right, so let's just dive straight into this, because today we're looking at what might honestly be the ultimate scientific cold case. For decades, human physicists have been trying to figure out how the universe fundamentally works, and frankly, they've kind of hit a brick wall. So, what happens when we ask a team of artificial intelligences to step in, look at the evidence, and build a theory of everything completely from scratch? Well, grab a coffee and get comfortable, because the results of this digital experiment are absolutely fascinating.
Imagine, just for a second, stripping away an entire century of human bias. Think about all those inherited habits, right? The whole "we've always done it this way" mentality, and all those dogmas that scientists naturally pass down to each other. What if we could just leave all of that baggage behind, leaving nothing but the raw, unyielding mathematical truth for a machine to investigate? Can an AI actually solve the biggest problem in physics just by looking at the cold, hard data?
Now, at the core of this whole investigation is a century-old conflict. For decades, our two absolute best, most successful descriptions of the universe have stubbornly refused to work together. On one side, you've got Einstein's general relativity, which describes the universe as this smooth, continuous, bending fabric of spacetime. But then, on the other side, you have quantum field theory, which basically says the universe is made of discrete, chunky, jumping quantum particles. They're fundamentally incompatible. So researchers set up this sort of ultimate physics tribunal using AI to essentially force these two titans of science into the same room and make them talk. Let's look at part 1, tearing down the dogma and the investigation constraints.
To tackle this massive problem, the researchers didn't just, let the AI casually chat about physics. No, they imposed really rigid, absolute constraints. They laid out this precise 3-step process. Step 1 was the library run. The AIs ingested literally every core paper out there, from causal sets to complex black hole data. Basically, if it mattered, it went straight into the corpus. Step 2 was to tear it all down. They forced the AI to strip everything down to its irreducible axioms. Absolutely no hand-waving, no human cheats allowed, and zero inherited habits, like assuming spacetime just has to be smooth. We're talking bare-bones physics functions here. And finally, step 3, the big attempt. The AI had exactly one job: unify the underlying physics or prove mathematically that it's just impossible.
So the AI ran its processes, mapping out all the conflicts and testing combinations against the absolute laws of physics. And it came back with a number, 0.07. Yeah, instead of handing us this magical, perfectly unified theory of everything on a silver platter, the AI tribunal mapped out exactly why the pieces of modern physics just do not fit together. It delivered this absolutely brutal but incredibly honest confidence score of just 0.07 out of 1 for a complete unification.
Moving on to part 2, the big breakthroughs, where the math actually clicked.
But hey, do not let that incredibly low score fool you, because it actually masks a truly brilliant partial framework. The AI's core winning strategy here was something called causal set theory. It completely ditched the whole idea of a smooth spacetime. Instead, it treated the universe as a discrete network of point events, linked entirely by cause and effect. In this model, space, time, and gravity aren't the background stage of the universe anymore, they're emergent properties. Think of it kind of like temperature. Temperature isn't a fundamental thing, right? It bubbles up from the movement of atoms. Well, the AI basically said gravity works the exact same way, just bubbling up from this vast network of dots and arrows.
And this radical shift resulted in some huge wins. First off, by treating spacetime as a chunky network, it successfully bypassed multi-decade paradoxes. We're talking no more infinities. Because there's no smooth fabric to infinitely divide down to the ultra-small Planck scale, the math just doesn't blow up into nonsense anymore. Second, it actually saved black hole information. The AI argued that while information looks lost in a single timeline, it's completely preserved mathematically if you sum it up across all possible history timelines. And third, to stabilize the math, the AI actually dropped the universe's effective dimensions from 4 down to 2 at the absolute smallest scales. It quite literally rewired how we look at the microscopic universe.
Which brings us to part 3, hitting the brick wall and the structural fractures.
So just when the tribunal seemed to be truly cracking the case, it ran face-first into reality. The whole unification attempt stalled out at what we call the locality crack. In our normal, everyday physics, we rely heavily on strict locality, which is just the rule that things can only interact with what is immediately right next to them. But the AI found that in a discrete relativistic universe, this rule completely breaks down at the ultra-small Planck scale. The AI basically looked at us and said, Look, normal locality magically emerges when you zoom out to human sizes, sure, but there is literally zero mathematical proof in your current papers to explain how that actually happens.
And then came the ultimate showstopper, the absolute brick wall that resulted in that failing grade in the first place. 10 to the power of 120.
This massive number represents the cosmological constant problem, or as it's sometimes called, the vacuum energy showstopper. In really simple terms, when we calculate the vacuum energy of empty space using quantum mechanics, the number we get is 10 to the power of 120 times higher than what we actually observe in the real universe. I mean, to put that into perspective, it's widely considered the single worst prediction in all of physics. Now, human physicists often fine-tune the math, right? They sort of authorize themselves to artificially adjust the numbers just to make it all work out. But the AI, it flat out refused to fake an answer. It stated very clearly that, based on our current corpus of physics, there is no known mechanism that reduces this massive mismatch without human cheating. And honestly, this refusal to cheat is what brings us to the conclusion of the experiment.
And that leads us perfectly into part 4, the final verdict, and absolute epistemic honesty.
Now, the final verdict wasn't a total failure. Actually, it was an 80% partial synthesis. The AI successfully handled black holes, it tamed mathematical infinities, it derived gravity as an emergent property, and it even gave us 3 concrete experiments to test it. I mean, for a machine, that is just an incredible achievement. But as that remaining 20% slice shows, it openly and honestly failed on emergent locality and that massive vacuum energy mismatch. It showed us exactly, without any sugarcoating, where the theoretical physics pipeline is fractured today.
The real takeaway from this explainer is that for the first time ever, a machine told us exactly why this puzzle can't be solved yet, and what experiment would actually prove the whole attempt wrong. We didn't get a neat, finished theory of everything tied up with a little bow. Instead, what we got was an honest, precise map of exactly which puzzle pieces in modern physics are fundamentally broken. The machine forced absolute epistemic honesty onto a discipline that's been stuck in the mud for decades.
So, as we stare down this brutally honest cosmic dead end, it leaves us with an incredibly exciting mystery. If the AIs are right and our current knowledge simply cannot solve the universe without cheating, what entirely new rules of the universe we are going to have to discover to finally bridge this impossible gap? What radical new physics is waiting out there, just beyond the edge of our current understanding? I'll leave you to chew on that one. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep questioning everything.